They called it a coffin on tracks. A joke, a burning steel death trap. But when the first British Firefly opened fire in Normandy, the laughter stopped. In the summer of 1944, across the hedgerows of France, German tank crews waited behind their iron beasts, confident and amused. They had heard that the Allies were sending Shermans. To them, it was almost funny. The panzer divisions had faced these machines before it all, awkward, thin-skinned tanks that seemed to ignite with a single shot. To the men of the Wehrmacht, the Sherman was not a threat. It was target practice. When reports came in that the British and Americans were landing with hundreds of them, Tiger and Panther crews relaxed behind their armor, certain that what was about to unfold would be nothing less than a massacre. They had reason to think so. The Tiger's 88mm gun could destroy a Sherman before the Allied crew even knew where the shot came from. The Panther's sloped armor deflected everything short of a direct miracle. In contrast, the Sherman's 75mm gun barely scratched the paint of a German heavy tank. The Germans even had a nickname for it, Tommy Cooker. They joked that the Sherman burned its crew alive so quickly you could cook breakfast on it. A cruel line, but one born from truth. In 1943 and early 1944, Allied tankers lived in constant fear. They knew their machines were outclassed. Even the bravest crewmen hesitated when they saw the square silhouette of a Tiger looming through smoke. German crews mocked them over the radio, confident, laughing, unafraid. But what they didn't know was that, hidden among those hundreds of identical Shermans, there were a few that were different, a few that could kill even a Tiger with a single shot. They were called Fireflies. To understand how that transformation happened, you have to remember that by 1943 Britain was desperate. Every engagement against German armor was a bloodletting. Their 75mm guns bounced off Tiger armor like pebbles against stone. Even when they hit a vulnerable spot, the shells lacked the power to do more than dent the steel. The British Army's engineers needed a miracle, and they found it in a weapon already in their arsenal, the 17-pounder anti-tank gun. It was a monster, the most powerful Allied gun of the war. On paper, it could destroy a Tiger at over a kilometer. The problem was that it was far too big to fit inside any tank turret that existed. But British engineers, stubborn and ingenious, refused to accept that. A team led by W.G.K. Kilburn decided they would make it fit. They took a standard Sherman, stripped the turret bare, moved the radio to the rear, adjusted the recoil system, and forced the 17-pounder into place. It was an act of mechanical insanity that somehow worked. The tank looked strange, its gun barrel longer than anything the Germans had seen, but when it fired, it could kill any tank on Earth. They called it the Sherman Firefly. The name sounded almost playful, but for the Germans, who would soon face it, it would become a symbol of fear. By early 1944, only a handful of Fireflies existed. They were scattered through British and Canadian units, usually one per troop of 4 Shermans. The crews who manned them understood what they had in their hands. They also understood they would be hunted. The long barrel gave them away instantly on the battlefield. German gunners learned to look for that shape first. Fireflies became priority targets. Yet even with that risk, Allied tankers finally had hope. They could strike back. They could fight on equal terms. In June 1944, when the Allies landed in Normandy, the Firefly went to war. The Germans didn't notice it at first. To them, every Sherman looked the same. They laughed, as they had before, confident in their invincible Tigers. Then, near the town of Villers-Bocage, a British Firefly took up an ambush position. Its commander, Sergeant Joe Ekins, waited until a column of Tigers rolled into view. He fired once. One Tiger burst into flames. He fired again. Another fell silent. In less than 12 minutes, Ekins and his crew destroyed 3 Tigers, including the one commanded by Michael Wittmann, the most celebrated tank ace in Germany. The news raced through Allied lines like wildfire, and through German ones like a chill. Something had changed. The enemy's laughter turned into silence. From the day on, the battlefield felt different. German crews who once rolled forward without fear began to move more cautiously, scanning the hedgerows, hesitant to expose their armor. They had learned that somewhere out there, hidden among the ordinary Shermans, were tanks that could pierce their invincible walls. Reports poured into German headquarters, enemy tanks now capable of penetrating Tiger armor. At first, the high command dismissed them. Impossible, they said. No Allied weapon had that power. But the wrecks told another story. Tigers burning in the fields of France. Panthers crippled from a single hit. The reality was undeniable. The Allies had caught up and overtaken them. Still, the Firefly was not perfect. It remained lightly armored. If a Tiger or Panther hit it, it still burned. The Sherman's thin sides and gasoline engine made sure of that. But the psychological balance had shifted. For the first time, German tank crews were afraid. They could no longer drive forward with arrogance. The long barrel of the Firefly haunted them like a shadow. Many survivors recalled the first time they saw that extended gun glinting through the mist. One said later, "When we saw that barrel, we knew it was over." The Firefly gave the Allies something they hadn't had since 1940: confidence. In the bocage of Normandy, Firefly crews used ambush tactics, lying in wait while standard Shermans drew the Germans into range. A single shot was often enough. The once invincible German armor was being hunted, and the hunters were no longer afraid. Every German tank destroyed by a Firefly carried a deeper meaning: revenge for every burning Sherman, justice for every fallen crew. Slowly, methodically, the myth of German superiority crumbled. By the fall of 1944, the German army was retreating across Europe. Their factories were bombed, their fuel scarce, their morale broken. The Allies rolled forward, Shermans by the thousands, Fireflies among them, leading the spearheads. Each shot fired was a reminder that technology and arrogance alone cannot win a war. The Germans had built masterpieces of engineering, beautiful, precise, deadly, but they were too complex, too few, too fragile. When they broke, they stayed broken. The Sherman, by contrast, was crude but relentless. It could be repaired in the field, replaced within days, shipped across oceans in pieces, and reassembled under fire. It didn't have to be perfect. It just had to keep moving. After the war, many historians debated the legacy of the Sherman and the Firefly. Some still mocked it, calling it obsolete, a death trap, a symbol of Allied quantity over quality. But those who fought in them remembered differently. They remembered that when they finally faced the enemy's pride and power, they did not break. They adapted. The Firefly proved that a simple machine modified with ingenuity could defeat even the most fearsome weapon of its time. It was not about steel, but the minds behind it. In the years after 1945, rusting hulls of Shermans and Panzers lay scattered across Europe, silent witnesses to pride and downfall. Among them, the Firefly stood out as a symbol of transformation. It was born from desperation, built with stubbornness, and perfected through necessity. It turned laughter into fear, weakness into strength. It taught a simple truth: in war, the greatest weapon is not armor or firepower, but the will to adapt. When German crews laugh at the Sherman, they laugh at the idea that something so crude could ever threaten them. But they forgot that in war, laughter rarely lasts. The same machines they mocked would one day destroy them. The same engineers they dismissed would outthink them. The same fire they saw as weakness would return to consume them. And so the laughter died in smoke, in fire, in the echo of 17-pound shells across the fields of Normandy. War does not reward arrogance. It rewards those who learn faster, those who refuse to accept defeat, those who take what is broken and make it deadly again. The British engineers who built the Firefly didn't set out to make history. They set out to survive. And in doing so, they changed the course of armored warfare. In the end, the Tiger was magnificent, the Panther was elegant, but the Firefly was enough to pierce the myth. enough to end the laughter, enough to remind the world that no empire, no army, no weapon is invincible, because behind every machine is the mind that made it. And when that mind refuses to stop improving, even a joke can become a legend. They laugh at the Sherman until they saw what followed it.